Hello. Welcome to the Climbing Consciousness. There's a tendency in human beings to want to attain perfection. And I think sometimes it's not even greed that makes people want to hold on to everything they have and hold on to every dollar they have when many people around them are in poverty and many people around them are starving. I think it's not always a product of direct greed, but more a tendency of a human being to attain perfection. And it's kind of a tendency to, when you achieve a certain amount of success and when you attain a certain amount of wealth or money, to then perfect your life from there and to become more wealthy and to get more and to save for your future and to invest in yourself. These aren't necessarily greedy things. A lot of them come from feelings of just wanting to better yourself, of just wanting to be as good as you can be. But in the process of doing that, you'd be neglecting other people that are direly in need of what you have. And a lot of what you have, you surely don't need. And to know that, to understand that everything that you have you don't need, I think could only be understood if you could walk in the shoes of somebody who truly needs what you would have. People who truly live day to day just to survive. People who can't think for a second about a future because they can only think about, am I going to be alive this week, next week, the week after that? So I think what I'm getting at is there's a tendency in a human being to attempt to make perfection out of what's given to them, as opposed to sharing what's given to them to others. There's a tendency to get absorbed in the self and to make it as good looking and as perfect as possible before helping other people. And a lot of times, by the time that person has achieved the perfection that they were looking for and they're ready to help other people, it's too late. And they've completely lost perspective on helping others at all because they've spent so many years trying to build themselves up that the concept of helping others has evaporated from their mind. And I think this is common, and I think this is a bigger reason for why there is poverty and a bigger reason for why there is starvation than simply saying, well, people are just greedy. I think this is a truer reason, is that people tend to get self-absorbed when they attain a certain level of success. People tend to become self-absorbed and tend to want to make their life perfect. And a lot of times the reasons that people do those things is not entirely for selfish reasons, and a lot of times it can be for reasons that look good to society and look good for parents and look good for other people around them. So there's influences that are telling you that becoming completely self-absorbed and ensuring that you will be okay is good. I think a lot of people won't want to give any money they have to others because they might think every dollar that I get, I must hold on to because God forbid I go poor. God forbid I don't have this money and then I'm poor and then I'm a failure in the eyes of the world. So to remember these kind of things, to me, says that the poverty that we see in the world is not a product of greed completely. It is not because human beings are bad, because human beings are just full of greed and hate and don't care about poor people. Hardly. I think it's more a product of fear. It's more a product of a lot of people are afraid. They're so afraid to lose the success that they have. Whatever little success it might be, whatever wealth they do have, whatever money they do have, there's a fear of losing that that's so ingrained in a lot of people that they just do not think about giving it to others because they are still completely wrapped in making sure that they are okay. So I think there's a lot of other factors involved in the poverty in the world than just greed. I think there's just a lot of fear and a lot of feeling that if I don't hold on to this, that someone will take it and then I'll be a loser. I'm a failure in the eyes of the world. And then with that, I think out of that fear comes the drive for a lot of people to, once they get something, they want to make it perfect. And they want to ensure that they will always have it. And there you invest in your retirement, and you invest in your future, and you invest in your life savings plan. To invest in all these things that are completely to you, and that are basically just making a plan for you to make your life as perfect as possible, to make sure that everything works out okay. This is all out of fear. And it's not necessarily out of greed. I know a lot of people who probably have never donated in their life who have beautiful hearts and who are completely grateful human beings and care about everyone. And I think the reason that there is no donation for them, or that they're not out helping the poor, is just out of fear. And out of the fear that they are so consumed in holding up their own fort. And it still isn't a valid reason to keep it all for yourself. Because living like that completely defeats, it puts you in such a box, and it puts you in such a, living in that kind of fear of making sure that your life turns out perfectly. All of life around you can only look and pity and say, that poor little fella. Because it's very obvious when you're kind of afraid to live, you're afraid to let go of the temporary success that you have. So it's something that I think everyone needs to work on. I think everyone could work on that, of just thinking about where you are right now, what your status is in the world, what your life is, and think about how much effort you put in to holding your own fort up, and how much of it is actually necessary. And then think about how much attention you pay to other people's forts. And just think about it, and think about how maybe if you backed away from trying to make sure that that your own little fort is perfect, you could probably help a lot of other people out a lot more. And surprisingly, by helping those people out, it would probably make your fort that much stronger.